Okay, I've got some questions for you based off of your book, Will I Poop When I Die?
I hate to be the one to tell you this, but...
Welcome, MythFits.
Welcome back to another episode of MythFits. I am Tory Belleci.
And I'm Kari Byron.
Hi,
I'm so
Kari.
excited we're doing this every week. I love this so much because
God.
it gives us a really good excuse to catch up, but also not only do we get to connect with the fans online and here, but we get to talk to some of the most interesting people. This is so much fun.
We have a very peculiar subject that we're going to be talking about today. It's death. I know that sounds dark, but we're going to try to look at the light. I don't know, just like...
Well, death is a part of life, man. We deal with it every single day. It's not something you can avoid. Like, but it doesn't have to be always grim. Like, if we bring the science to it, it's interesting. I mean, our entire show is based off the Darwin Awards and people, you know, coming to their demise in really bizarre ways. So I feel like we can walk that line.
Well, I feel like you and I don't know, all the crazy things that we did on Mythbusters, we're fortunate that we didn't die during the making of that show because there were so many crazy things that we did. And it's like the fact that we survived it, it's a miracle.
I was super scared when Jamie and Adam tested Buried Alive because they put Jamie in a coffin, like a real coffin, a metal coffin. And, you know, they had medics and stuff standing by, but they started loading dirt on top of the coffin the way they do when it's out in a graveyard. And just like, they didn't even get to 6 feet before the coffin started collapsing. And
right. It started crushing the metal casket.
yeah, I thought they were going to crush him. I remember being super duper scared. Like when they called it, they're like, let's pull him out.
I wasn't afraid at all.
You got this. Well,
I was like, he's going to just break out through the dirt. He's like a robot.
I mean, we did Coffin Punch with you. It was the same sort of thing where it was like nerve wracking.
Well, it's the myth about being buried alive. I think it was the fact that there's not enough oxygen in the casket that you would eventually suffocate. And so you wouldn't survive very long in being buried 6 feet under. But,
so I guess being crushed would be the best case scenario?
God, no. I can't even imagine that.
I'm claustrophobic, so the whole thing
like
gives
my
me
worst nightmare. You remember we went to the Mooter in Philadelphia?
Oh, yeah. We had extra time, and you and I always go on some sort of journey or mission. And I'm like, ooh, we're in Philadelphia. The Medical Oddities Museum is here. That place is so cool.
Yeah, and I had never been there. And we were filming a show out there, and so we had an extra day. So you were like, you got to come with me to this museum. You're going to love it. And it was just like, there was like different, you know, skulls and weird animals that were born with two heads. I mean, it was just all this crazy scientific macabre oddities. And that museum was like one of the coolest museums I'd ever been to.
Like giant skeletons and tiny skeletons and an entire wall of like skulls that have been lobotomized or had decayed from syphilis. I know I sound really excited talking about this, but it was really, really interesting. My favorite was like little baby conjoined twin skeleton is like kind of on their t-shirt because it's it's so interesting. They had an entire library of things that people had swallowed. Like wild. It's just wild.
Yeah, it's not like a morbid or scary. It's a curiosity thing where it's just like, what does the inside of your body look like? What does this, you know, this disease look like after? But then when we were in LA, my wife and I were in LA, and it was like we had some time off, and we're like, have you heard of the Museum of Death in Los Angeles?
No, tell me.
Oh my God. It was the most like heavy oh God, it was so creepy. It was real life death. Like they had a shirt from a prison inmate who had been electrocuted in an electric chair. And it was like sitting on a fake electric chair and all burnt. They had photos of car crashes, like when the police are on scene, just stuff that you can't unsee. Letters from serial killers. It is. We go through it, and it just, after we were done, we were both so depressed. It was just
very romantic date you took your wife on.
I know. We thought it was going to be more like the Mooter, where it's like curiosity things. Oh, here's these crazy, things around death, like a guillotine or whatever. But no, it was like real life. There was like there was actual video playing 24/7 of a person being embalmed. But so we leave, and we're just like, we were so depressed. And we're just like, even if we went to Disneyland right now and spent the rest of the day, it would not clear our heads of what we just saw. It was horrific.
I mean, just after this conversation, I feel like we should throw up a picture of like a puppy or something, just to cleanse our brains from hearing about this. Like,
that's a good idea.
we talk about, we talk about death all the time. I mean, one of the things that was on the Mythbusters board for a really long time, because, the Mythbusters board had all kinds of myths, whether we could bust them or not, whether we could build them or not, no matter how crazy they were. And one was 21 grams, the idea that that's the weight of your soul. And it's a really old myth. I mean, it's based on some goofy pseudoscience, but it was legitimately up there. Like, okay, if the show's big enough, maybe we can get somebody who's terminally ill to
let us monitor them.
Expire on a scale for television. I don't know what the plan here was. It's super dark, but obviously nothing we ever seriously
we never actually
for the
tested
show.
That one.
So it's historically interesting, and I actually really want to talk to our next guest about it.
Yeah, I'm so excited about
our
this.
next guest is I don't know if you'd say influencer, but an educator in all things death. She is a mortician and an author. The reason that I've been obsessed with this woman, her name is Caitlin Doughty. Now, when my daughter and my niece were young, they had a lot of questions about death, and we went and got her book, Will the Cat Eat My Eyeballs? It's a really provocative title straight out the gate, but it's just chapter after chapter of weird questions kids might ask about death, and it's fascinating. And when I was clearing out, I do big garage clear outs all the time. And I was, really sadly taking all of my daughter's children's books and redistributing them to other kids and families. And the one that she wouldn't let me get rid of, she's like, nah, we're keeping that one. So I still have this book. And I looked at that and I was like,
dark side to her. She's like, nope.
She's
I want to be eaten by my pet when I'm
She's inquisitive. She's like me. She's just really interested in cool science. And though she's not quite so gothy anymore, that was a very younger phase. I mean, we still both just love that book. So I started just kind of like I do, stalking this woman until she agreed to come on our podcast.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
good.
Coming up, all the things that you want to know about death, dying, and the entire industry.
I have some doozy questions for her. You know what? Ever since I saw that book that she wrote, I've been training my little chihuahua. I'm training him. If I die, don't. I see the way you're looking at me,
buddy.
You're licking your lips. Don't even think about it, sucker.
You like an Egyptian pharaoh. Come on, puppy. Crawling in. I'm so excited to bring in this guest because, Tori, as you know, I am a longtime fan, but I would like to welcome Caitlin Doughty. She is a writer, a mortician, and an advocate for the funeral industry, and also, I guess, a death influencer, you would say?
I'm sort of I've been called the original death influencer. I actually got a portmanteau in the New York Times as a death-fluencer, which was, I guess I'll take that. But
You'll take it.
But when I started this game, there weren't even influencers, I'm so old.
So you were like one of the original death influencers?
I guess, but I'm not. Influencers I usually associate with trying to sell you something. With really, my advocacy is trying to convince you not to pay as much for funerals. So I'm sort of trying to influence you to, I'm sort of the original de-influencer, maybe.
Well, Caitlin, I am excited to have you here because I am a longtime fan. My daughter she was a little gothy when she was younger, and my niece as well had a lot of questions about death that I couldn't answer. So I had bought your book, Will the Cat Eat My Eyeballs? And we were obsessed with it. Like, I carried facts from it all around for a long time. Like, I felt like I became a little bit of an expert in this. And it made it a lot easier for me to talk to kids when they would ask difficult conversation questions. So I just wanted to tell you straight out the gate, like, I'm very, very familiar with your work. And, you know, coming from Mythbusters, I don't know if you know this, but Tori and I, our entire career was based on the Darwin Awards and Snopes, and basically people coming to their demise in very strange ways. We always wanted to be very respectful because, you know, death is scary, but it's also a part of life. So we're respectful of it. But man, people do some dumb stuff to kill themselves.
They sure do. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited that you have this show now. Welcome. Welcome back. This is really exciting. Of course, respecting the dead is the thing that you put in the forefront. But when you're talking about it in terms of science, in terms of cultural history, in the way that we all do, I think that actually sort of ratchets up the respect a little bit because we're honoring the person, even if they died in a dumb way. You're honoring the person, but you're honoring society by not hiding death away and acting like it can't be honestly spoken about. And I love that we all do that work.
We have so much mythology based around death. And for one thing, like Tori and I, this is nothing that we tested on Mythbusters because obviously it would be very hard to test. But in like 1907, there was Dr. Duncan McDougall. Maybe you're familiar with this story. He wanted to test the myth of 21 grams, that your soul weighs something. So he did a very small scientific experiment, like, you know, very small sample size. It was like 6 people, and one woman at her death lost 21 grams. So he, you know, hypothesized that that's the weight of the soul, and he was never able to replicate it, and he couldn't, you know, it got discredited as pseudoscience, but it lived on in mythology for a very, very long time. Have you heard this myth? And like, is this something that's still prevalent in the industry?
I don't think morticians are the right people to talk about the soul, really, because we are workers of the corpse. We take care of the dead body. Although there have been so many, part of the problem with the modern funeral industry, in my estimation, is that it is so cut off from the pre-death to the after-death care. Like, there used to be people who would come into your home who were in the community, women in the community who really were a full continuum of care, starting with you, sitting with you when you died, and then being there and taking care of your body after death, kind of almost like a death midwife. And, you know, now it's very much like, now you're dead, now you go to the mortician. But if people were there, maybe we could see more of the exact moment that the body gets ever so slightly lighter when the soul goes somewhere.
My family's Italian. In the old days, they used to bring the body home and leave it for like 5 to 7 days so people could come and visit the dead body and say their goodbyes. And I don't know if that was, I mean, one, I'm sure it was like emotionally to let people let go, but was that also in case they were just in a coma and that they weren't actually dead yet?
Well, normally not, but there are stories that we have of places in sort of Central Europe, like Germany and Austria, where they had something called waiting mortuaries. And the idea behind the waiting mortuary is that you would put all the dead bodies in there, the recently dead bodies, you would fill it with really hot air because that contributes to decomposition. And then you would sit around and watch to see if any of them moved to make sure they were really dead. And it gets even weirder. It gets weirder. Wait. They would attach things to their fingers and toes that were bells. So when they moved, it would like connect to some sort of harmonium or sound. And then you could hear, if you were in charge of the waiting mortuary, you were just some guy sitting in a very hot room with a bunch of dead bodies making eerie, like harmonium noises. Because they're creepy. Decomposing, but it would allow the family to be very sure that the person was actually dead.
Okay, I've got some questions for you based off of your book because my daughter, she wanted to make sure that I went through these because she feels like this is stuff people want to know. So I've got a couple of just like, you're basically just going to be repeating chapters of your book, but I think everybody needs to hear some of these. So first, will a cat eat my eyeballs? Will a cat consume me if I happen to go and no one finds me?
I hate to be the one to tell you this, but yes, yes, they will.
Dang.
And, they don't you're not their first choice for sure, but if it is part of your job to feed your cat, and if you die and you're not feeding your cat, they're going to start to nibble at the soft tissue around your lips and your eyelids and the more delicate places just to
no
be able
loyalty.
No
Zero loyalty to
Maybe
the
have
owner.
Loyalty. Well, where's your loyalty to them? You were supposed to feed them. You weren't supposed to die.
I mean, if I was alive, I would be feeding them. I can't. It just like you feel like if they're sitting on your lap, are they just like sizing you up, like going, I wonder how long he would keep me alive once he's gone.
Not their first choice, but their last choice. But what they're going to do, and what we do know too, is that dogs will also show what we call post-mortem predation. We'll see little, nips on humans where the dogs will eat them. But from my understanding, dogs will wait longer, and they also usually
they're a little bit more loyal.
They're a little more demure in their choices, but they also will do it because they're really anxious. They don't know why you're not waking up. They can't get you to wake up.
Yes.
They're chewing, they're gnawing, they're trying to say, hello, 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 what's going on? Whereas the cat will just more dive in.
Well, I have a little chihuahua with 0 teeth. Like his teeth have all fallen out. So I'm pretty sure he is not going to eat me.
That's a good way.
Okay.
That's a good insurance policy to prevent that.
Last night we found him. We were feeding my daughter like little sausages. So we were cutting them up and he came into the living room and it was stuck in his mouth and he couldn't eat it. He was just like sitting there with the sausage in his mouth. And I was like, there's no way you could eat me. There's no way.
That could be your toe someday. Just can't quite do it.
All right. Next question. Will my hair keep growing in my coffin after I'm buried?
No. Very cool idea, but no. What's actually happening, so when you're alive, you are producing glucose, and glucose makes the cells that grows your hair and grows your fingernails, for instance. But once you die, that stops, and they're not growing anymore. But the reason that it has existed as a myth for so long is that what does happen when you die is you dehydrate. The fluid goes away and you're basically you're shrinking kind of like a fruit, like a, desiccated fruit. And what that happens is it pulls your nail beds back, it pulls your scalp in, and it seems like more of your nail is being revealed, more of your hair is being revealed. So it appears like it's growing, but it's not growing at all. You're just shrinking.
That's really interesting. Because ever since you're a kid, that's the myth that you would hear, that your fingernails, toenails, and your hair would continue growing.
Myth busted.
Myth busted. We did it.
Okay, next one. This one is a question I get from kids a lot. Will I poop when I die?
You might, if you're lucky. So your sphincter, as they call it.
You can see how mature we are on this show.
Yeah. That's actually, the scientific name is, of course, the external anal sphincter. That's actually a voluntary muscle. So that's why when you sit down to poop, you go, poop down, poop time. You're like, it's poop o'clock, and you can release that muscle and poop. But when you die, your muscles are completely relaxed. So you no longer have the ability to control whether or not you're opening that sphincter. This is my technical diagram of that.
Use your
hands. For those listening, I'm making a circle with my fingers.
A small circle to a very large circle.
A small puckered circle going into a larger circle. And because, when you're moving a dead body, for example, as a mortician, you might sit the body up or roll the body over the stomach and it gets crunched. And then if there's no muscle holding the poop in, off it goes to freedom.
There you have it, folks. Now you know. When you die, you shit your pants.
Not always, but it is a possibility.
You've seen how many corpses over your career? What are some of the crazier ones that stick out to you that you just were like, when they brought them in, you were just like, whoa, this is something I've never seen before?
Your 6 feet under moment.
Yeah, I think, I just think of them as all my friends, so I can't even pick one. But I think that the most surprising ones are there's one end of the surprising where someone, like, for example, there was someone who was killed on the BART train in San Francisco. And you would be like, oh, this person is going to be hit by the BART train. They're going to be completely messed up.
Yeah.
And here's this like absolutely perfect young man's dead body with like a couple little scratches on. And so it's sort of like, what happened to you? How did this train hit you enough, like basically run you over enough to kill you? And you don't really look like anything happened to you. And then something else will happen where it'll just be like, oh, this person was just found in their apartment after a day, and they'll be severely decomposed, like almost like mold has started to grow. And it's like, wait, how did this happen to you in such a short period of time? So it's always an interesting, and why I think funeral work can be really interesting is to try and figure out how the person died. Why is this happening? Why is one body reacting a completely different way than another dead body? It just ends up being really, really interesting. I don't know if anybody's like come in with a completely like thing that I've never seen before. One guy, I walked into the refrigeration unit once, and I didn't realize he had a glass eye. And the eye was just open, and he was staring up at me with like one perfect glass eye.
It would freak me out so bad.
Yeah, it was like, because your eyes actually after. Like, yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, how's it going?
Exactly. Like, are you winking at me, sir?
You're all hello? Hello?
Yeah. And they usually cloud over, the cornea will cloud over pretty shortly after death. And so when you see one perfect eye, you're like, wait a second.
Something's up here.
Wait a second.
Have you ever experienced the postmortem death groan? Like, I hear that's gases coming out of your body. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, it's just a little noise, especially if you're moving someone, and the gas presses into the lungs, or the sound is kind of pushed up through your windpipe, and you get a little like, but sometimes people talk about it as if the dead are wailing, which is not. That's a myth busted. That doesn't.
Myth busted.
Myth bust. Another myth busted here.
I heard the myth that if you had swallowed an entire bag of unpopped popcorn and were put into the crematorium, that you could become a Jiffy Pop container. I know. I heard the myth. I just wanted to address it.
I just had to clear it up here today. I think that the conclusion that I came to with that is that the cremation machine is 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. It's basically a blast furnace. You're trying to take a large dead human body down to ash in an hour's time. So it needs to be incredibly hot. It needs to have hot fire coming down. It would just instantly blacken those kernels. We're not talking about like a delicate, gentle rolling fire in a cremation machine. We're talking about a very intense heat chamber. And popcorn would just not stand a chance, unfortunately.
So like
it's whimsical,
Pop Rocks and Coke, that myth is busted. I watched an episode you did on death in Disney. And I'm wondering.
Oh, I love this.
Yes. First of all, did Disney contact you because they were upset with you at all about this episode? And what's the most interesting factoid? Because, we always heard the myth that, like, Walt had his head cryogenically frozen. We've all seen Snow White, which is basically like cartoon necrophilia. It's a weird story. Like, what is your craziest death and Disney fun fact?
There is a lot of them. This was like a 3-part video. No, death never called me. Death never called upon me. Disney never contacted me at all, which is weird because I do understand that they are very intense about that. Although hopefully they would kind of see the Streisand effect and like if they came after me, it would only be a bigger thing. I think my kind of perennial favorite thing about death at Disney, well, two things. Mostly about death in the parks. First one being that you never really die. The same way you don't really die on an airplane, you don't really die in the park because they call the ambulance and they take you out of there and they declare you dead elsewhere. So even if people are dying at Disney, like those numbers don't really reflect that. And
this
then
is the happiest place on earth. We don't want people to
be filled with death.
Death is not allowed.
Death is not, except in all the places that people love to scatter ashes at Disney.
Oh.
So, like, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is constantly having to be shut down because people are just chucking ashes off.
That explains the smell. It always smells really strange in there.
And the Haunted Mansion, too. That one is a big, people will go and scatter their ashes in the Haunted Mansion. Yeah, that's wild.
And they're just always just, and also for me, I'm like, I wouldn't do it because you're just going to get cleaned right up. You know, it's not like you stay forever in the beauty that is Disney, the place you loved. Like you're just instantly like vacuumed up and tossed, you know, like it's not actually sort of the romantic forever resting space you're imagining.
Okay, I love this. I think that I do need to recommend that everybody goes and watches your multi-part series on Death and Disney, because people are so obsessed with Disney.
Before you go, I just have one last question. Did you ever have to MacGyver a situation where it was just like a body came in and you were like, I don't know what to do?
Funeral directing is like a lot of MacGyvering a situation with a dead body. I will tell you that. I mean, there's lots of situations where you're doing kind of, you know, when you have a body that's been autopsied, for instance, they do a full circle saw around the head and they remove the skull cap. And they often will remove all of the internal organs and give them back to you in a bag, like in a red hazard bag that they've either sewn into the stomach or taken out. And it's a real MacGyver act to kind of put Humpty Dumpty back together again with the dead body. And sometimes you're better at it than others. And there are funeral directors who are absolutely like artistes at it. And then there are those who are just doing their best with this almost like mixed media, like artistic thing that is putting the dead body back together again. So yes, a lot of MacGyvering in the funeral industry.
This has been so interesting, but Tori and I have a million questions and we could keep you here for hours. I want people to go to all of your social channels. So if you want to follow Caitlin Doughty, you have @TheGoodDeath on Instagram. You have Ask a Mortician on YouTube. She's written so many books, so go check her out on Amazon. But this is one of those people that has all of the answers.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so eye-opening.
Oh my God, this has been amazing.
I open like the one guy with the eye open. Yeah. He's like the mascot for that. An eye-opening experience into the funeral industry.
Thank you, Caitlin. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Caitlin. You're awesome.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a while.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was great.
Oh my God, that was so cool.
Oh.
I really love that interview.
That was so interesting. Like I was a little concerned about this episode because it's like death. Great. Who's going to want to watch an episode about death? But hearing it from her perspective, just kind of, I don't know. It feels lighter to me.
Yeah. I mean, she's scientific about everything. So she has a really great way of answering with a little bit of irony and just, you know, it's not what you think. It was so cool. I really had so many questions. I could have kept going. Interesting.
Like the guy with the glass eye, that just creeped me out so bad. He's just like, hey, what's going on?
I love people asking people what's the craziest thing that's ever happened at your job, but like, I was a little afraid to ask this one. I'm so glad that you did. All right, Tori, this is the part of the show where we take fan questions. So guys, if you're on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, we read all of those. There's a lot. So we just randomly pick one out. But I love being able to have a conversation with you. So thank you for sending all of the questions.
There have been some really good ones. I mean, there's usually like, you know, the ones we get all the time. What was your favorite explosion? What was your favorite myth? Whatever. But you guys have been coming with some really good questions. So keep them coming.
Are you ready for it today, Tori?
Yes.
All right. Our first question. Okay. This comes from Brad Lovelock @BradLovelock69.
Is that your real name?
Is that Brad your real handle?
Lovelock. Is it?
Okay.
Lovelock.
So Brad Lovelock says, big fan. Was there a myth that seemed ridiculously dumb or impossible at first, but ended up working better than expected? What do you think, Tori? You have one you like?
Yeah. Yeah, you know which one pops out like instantly was we were going to do the myth that your dryer eats your sock or eats the matching sock. So it's like you would put you put a pair of socks in the dryer and then one always disappears. And so we were going to set the shop up with like 50 dryers going for, day and night for 7 days. And we were going to load each of the dryers with socks and then count after and see how many disappeared. And we were just like, that's the lamest, like that. It's
snooze fest.
It was such a weird, like dumb idea that all of us were just like, no, like this, we won't test. We're not going to test this because it's ridiculous.
And it's going to take a lot of energy and heat for 50 dryers going constantly. Like the cops are going to come think we're running a grow house or something.
They would have killed our budget. But so then we came up with the idea, knock your socks off. So there's this myth that a boxer could get hit so hard in a ring that it would knock him out of his shoes and his socks. And so we ran with that. And that one, I feel like, just turned out beautifully.
Because, of course, we've got like Buster dressed like a boxer. Ooh, I had the boxer boots from that episode for such a long time. They are the most comfortable shoe. I liked it when we actually got to get clothes from set. Yeah, they were so
that
comfortable.
They're very flat foot, like really.
It was like being barefoot. I really enjoyed it. And I also liked seeing the punching robot, that like punching uppercut robot was really cool.
Yeah. But then we ramped it up. I remember we ramped it up to, we welded a giant steel bar that weighed, I don't know, like 800 pounds, welded it to the back of a flatbed truck, drove it down the runway, had Buster standing up with his boxing outfit and his socks, and smacked the crap out of Buster. Like it, I think I got it up to like 50 miles an hour, and we just like hit him so hard with this steel bar that was sticking out the side of the truck. That was one of those like, what are we doing moments?
This is so ridiculous. Like we just kept amping it up and amping it up, and then like we still couldn't get his socks off. So then we went out and decided to use explosives because that's what we always do. So we had all of these like, busters, mannequins set up with socks on like in a big field. And this was when I was pregnant. So we had to get really, really far away from this explosion because my doctor really didn't have great advice other than like, okay, you're going to have to stand in front of a wall and you're going to have to increase your distance because, I was really pregnant at that point. I had a little Stella inside me and we didn't want to scramble her.
But we did, you don't want to scramble her.
Scrambled eggs.
What we ended up doing is getting all these mannequin feet. And so we stuck all the mannequin feet on these posts and created this like rings every 10 or 25 feet away from the explosion. Because we set off 500 pounds of ammo. So we knew this was going to be a big blast. So we had these rings of feet, mannequin feet that we slipped socks on. And then we were hoping that the blast wave would hopefully knock off some of these socks. And I think we did. I mean, we destroyed a lot of the mannequin feet and completely singed all the socks. But there was some on the outer ring that I think we actually were able to knock off. So,
and I mean, like Anfo's the pushing explosive. So it felt like that was, if anything was going to do it, that was going to do it. But I don't think it made the episode. So here's the little behind the scenes dirt that happened. I think, Linda talked about this on a previous episode a little bit, but it happened to have been a low hanging cloud day. It was foggy. And so instead of the wave just kind of dissipating upward, it propagated out along the topography and into the local town. And it knocked some tiles down from in a school. And it maybe busted a couple windows in the town.
Yeah.
And somebody like fell out of their car. It was a big like
some guy tried to get us to pay for his refrigerator because he said his refrigerator stopped working after the explosion went off. Yeah, good luck with that one. Good luck.
And we were just like, wait, what happened? And we had to go on a little bit, like there was nobody got hurt. It was no major damage, but we definitely went on a little bit of an apology tour because we were really far away. We didn't think that there would be, we didn't even think they would hear it. But Linda grabbed me. She was our producer. She grabbed me to go because she's like, nobody's going to yell at a pregnant lady. So I had to walk around and personally be like, sorry. we replaced all the windows and the tiles, and we actually probably left it better than it was in the first place. Because I think we went from single pane to double pane on a couple of those, so they didn't have to hear any more of our explosions nearby.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Do you think there's an afterlife?
Yeah. Well,
It's made me think. Like, I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Catholic family when I was young, and I went to a lot of church with my grandma. But as an adult, I've always been more of an atheist. But as I get older, I think it's like a prayers in a foxhole kind of thing. I want to be haunted so bad to prove it to me, because I want to believe, and I have with several people done the Houdini thing, where you give them a word that only the two of you know.
I get it.
So
and
that
then you
like
have a seance.
So if somebody comes to you and they're like trying to prove it to you, like I have several friends. My Aunt Betty in particular promised me, because she knew she was going soon. She promised to haunt me, and we had a password. So on Mythbusters for years.
What's the password? I mean, you don't have to tell me now.
I'm not going to say it. I can't say it.
No, you don't have to tell me now. But when we're done with this podcast, I want to know what that word was.
Well, I think maybe you and I should have a password, so that like I promise to haunt you if I can, if you'll promise to haunt me. Mythbusters, when we would go to these places, there was always a hotel that had like one room that they're like, no, this one's definitely haunted. And Tori would always, we would go sit in the room, wait to be haunted, because you knew I really, really, really want to be haunted. But then ultimately we'd get bored and you'd scream and you'd scare me, and I'd like practically wet myself, and I'd scream and run, because though I don't necessarily believe in the afterlife, I'm also a very jumpy person who watches a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, that's
how about you?
Interesting.
What are your thoughts these days?
Yeah, I completely believe. I know it's like, oh, you're a scientist, but not really.
No, you're always. It's just like we're always Mulder and Scully. You've always been Mulder.
But yeah, no, I definitely feel like there's a better place beyond. Like we're going somewhere else after this. But it's interesting. We had a producer on our show, Todd Mesro. You remember him?
Oh yeah,
he was our showrunner for a season or two. He told me the story. We got to get him on, because he's got so many crazy stories from producing Mythbusters and then producing other shows. But he had the story of his wife when she was a little girl. She was at her grandmother's house, and they were all in the back room with the grandmother, and she was playing in the living room. And the grandmother was on her deathbed, and she said she was throwing a ball, running, from the kitchen to the living room, and then she came back out of the kitchen into the living room, and she said the whole living room were filled with people. All these people were dressed in like these clothes from a long time ago, and then all of a sudden, everybody started crying. The grandmother had passed. She looked down the hall to see them, where the noise came from, and when she looked back into the living room, all those people were gone. And so then they opened. She was telling him, she's like, I just saw there was all these people in the living room, and they're like, what are you're nuts. So they opened up old photo albums, and she started picking out, yep, that person was there, that person. All these relatives were in the living room to take the grandmother home. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it gives me chills thinking about that.
Okay, I have one question for you that's always been on my mind. So when people see ghosts, why do people cross over with their clothes on? And is it the clothes that they died in? And if their clothes don't have a soul, why are they always like, would you choose to be in a soldier outfit for the rest of your life? Like, why are ghosts always wearing clothes?
I have no idea. I mean, I think maybe it's so the person that's dying can recognize them how they remember them. How about that?
Nobody ever sees a naked ghost.
That's not true.
You've seen a naked ghost? I mean, I think I'd prefer a naked ghost. I think it would bring a little levity to the situation. I'd be like, ha!
Do you hear that joke? There's a group of villagers in a church, and the pastor's up there, and he's like, has anybody ever made love to a ghost? And nobody raises their hand, and this one guy in the way back goes, yeah, I have. And they were like, what? What was it like making love with a ghost? And he said, oh, a ghost. I thought you said a goat.
Oh, God, Tori.
It's stupid.
On that note, thank you, everyone, for listening to MythFits.
Thank you for tuning in again.
If you want to go there, we're going where every single time. MythFits out.
Out, but not dead.
Pioneer.